My name's Sam Fleming. Today we'll be doing a little bit of a deep dive, what I describe as an interrogation of Richtech Robotics. Not from a malicious sense of the word, but just more of really getting into what does this company do? What is its sort of competitive differentiators, understanding the substance behind the company that makes it competitive in the marketplace and enabling its business model. There's a lot of use cases, obviously, from an investment perspective or risk underwriting, where it helps to really get sort of a layer of nuance, a layer of detail in terms of what are the actual capabilities of a company, what are the activities they're actually doing as a business. So today we'll dive in using Claude. Now we do have our Moat metrics technology sort of enabled in this, and that acts as a sort of deeper, more nuanced layer in terms of how you can interact with companies. So pretty useful if you want to get down into a classification scheme that goes beyond a traditional NAICS or SIC type code classification. Allows you to build really rich sort of peer sets for analysis, as well as it's tied in terms of that catalog of capabilities. It's also tied to their patents. And so you'll actually see a lot of sort of foundational sort of patent information around where companies are innovating, which can be a great source of understanding what companies are actually doing. So let's dig in here. One thing about this workflow is some of these requests that you'd put that to Claude using these things are pretty deep analysis. So some of these can take like 5 minutes on an individual query to run. So I've pre-run all this. So really I'm just going to go through and narrate this just in the interest of speed and time. But hopefully you get an idea of the substance and sort of a good sense of the capabilities of RichTech and where it stands today amongst its peers. So the first thing I start with is, can you characterize the business of Richtech Robotics using web sources? I've qualified web sources. Again, we have that plugin running in here, an MCP plugin. So we want to qualify that we wanted to go out to the web and just get sort of generalized information. So it comes back to a description of the core business model, obviously, robotic solutions in hospitality and healthcare. It talks a little bit about their transport and delivery robots, some of their cleaning and food and beverage preparation, and then a little bit about their market position. All great basic information. Again, nothing sort of particularly novel around this. A nice summary that you'd get probably from any AI engine. What about their business is unique, and what are they doing that others before them have not accomplished in their sectors of focus? And so what this is going to do is go out and look and try and identify, what kind of novel approaches this has. In all these queries here, if you look at these, they're all just sort of going against web results. So your standard internet search. Again, these AI technologies, these large language models, they don't store all of the individual data, all the attributes about a company. Those aren't stored in the model. But they're great, obviously, in the pattern recognition, the predictive language aspects, to go out and interpret those results really quickly and give you a synopsis of what's happening there. So one of the things that they have done at RichTech is they've gone in and done vertical restaurant ownership. So they're actually putting in, like in Walmart locations apparently and stuff, they're actually doing storefronts. So they actually have their bots up and running and have their own sort of business front. That's interesting to me, as opposed to traditional robot vendors that would sell or lease you an actual robot. That's interesting. That's a difficult model to scale. Maybe it was a step they needed to do to sort of prove out this space. So, and it does get into that product as a proof of strategy, which is interesting. One of the things to me that I find fascinating is just that we've had years of robots in sort of industrial applications. Warehouses, sort of pick and ship sort of situations, manufacturing processes, and to not have an actual consumer application beyond sort of the common household vacuum robot. It's interesting. So this proof of product strategy might be necessary to get that sort of first early mover advantage and really demonstrate these things in practical applications, and build that revenue stream. So it's an interesting business strategy. Let's see here. Domestic manufacturing, I don't really consider that an advantage. Robots as a service model, so they'll lease them to you. Strategic technology partnerships with NVIDIA. I think pretty much anybody doing robotics can probably get that one, so I don't consider that a differentiation. What they've accomplished that others have, what they haven't accomplished that others have. So they haven't scaled. Let's see, they haven't got international, and they're not particularly profitable. So again, those are based off its web assessments and pulling those in. It's quoting the sources, so it's probably pretty reasonable or credible, at least, that there's an article out there that it's just not making those numbers up. So now, again, right, that's pretty generalized information that you can go get out of any assistant. And again, what we're doing here by having the MCP plugin is putting this thing on steroids, really allowing it to get down to a nuanced level of granularity. So the first way we're going to do is we've got to build a context as we go here. What are the key mix categories and focus on customer service and automation of service personnel? And let's keep it focused on in service industry, food preparation, healthcare, and related industry robotics. So a mix is our Moat industrial classification system. So I mentioned earlier that you can get an AICS, and that has like 15,000 categories that'll be like soybean farming and stuff. Ours is much more technology specific, and that granularity gets down. We have over 200,000 categorizations that we label. And as an example, if you went into auto manufacturing, an AICS or a SIC would have a class for automotive parts manufacturing, for instance. But if you actually got down to like a sub-assembly of like a headlamp assembly, they wouldn't have that sort of characterization. And we can even take that down to the actual lens that sits in that assembly or the bulb that sits in that assembly. And so that level of granularity is sort of unprecedented. To get down and actually identify like a peer group of who is innovating in a specific space, map all the companies into that at that very granular level of detail. That gives you, that sort of empowers this agent with the truth of like this is actual real data in a structured data format that aligns all these relationships between activities and companies. So you see they did the mix search here. It goes in, finds those various companies or those mix codes. And with that, it's actually understanding more than just the classifications. It will start understanding like who the competitors are and pull those sorts of information back as well. So based on my search of the Moat Metrics MIC database, the core service robotics categories are service robots, mobile serving robots. So you can see some redundancy here. That happens, but it does have, again, that granular classification. The collaborative, interactive robots, human-robot interaction, get down to the food service. And so each of these is a unique classification code. So you can see like automated food preparation that we've got 56 identified companies that participate in that space holding 67 patents. So not a ton of patents per entity, but there is stuff that we directly sort of align to that. And we can drill in, like if we wanted to drill into automated food preparation, we can go do targeted queries at that, identify what that peers are, sort of model out that competitive landscape on that very specific thing. You can also lead in this tool with a class. So if you wanted to go into food preparation robots and start there, rather than starting with a company, you also have that ability. Now again, we're focused in this case of truly sort of diving in and delving into the nuance of Richtech Robotics. They do have some healthcare sort of delivery robots, which is interesting, so that pulls out in here. They do have some cleaning robots, so I imagine it's on the commercial side that they're doing some of that, robotic cleaners. Let's see here. It does have some insights for these overall classes. So autonomous mobile robots, 3,000 patents, cleaning robots, 1872 in terms of patents. So giving you some broad industry classification here. Richtech Robotics sweet spot, the most relevant mixed codes for the business model would be service robots, food preparation robots, beverage makers, delivery robots, and cleaning robots. So of all those classes that we just went through, that's sort of the broad swath, and now it's sort of giving us this recommendation, this narrowed set of like, these are the things, the classes that are very specific to our target entity here in Richtech. So now we're going to go in with this next query. So based on that list of the most relevant mixed codes, provide a competitive landscape that characterizes how each of Richtech's key competitors in differentiating its offerings through innovation. So it's going to go out now, it's going to search the entities under each of these classes and build up. And so again, we're framing it to the classes that most pertain, hopefully the most granular, most pertinent targets that give us the nuance of what Richtech is doing and how they stack up versus their peers. And so again, like one of the things you always have to be careful, the common fear is like you're getting disinformation, false information out of these virtual agents. these LLMs that will just sort of fill in the voids and make stuff up. When you ground it in something like this, it's literally pulling it out of a structured data set. And so this is actual qualified data that is sort of grounded both in the patent domain as well as in the mixed classification codes, where we have all those alignments all sort of pre-calculated and tagged for the LLM to take advantage of. So the competitive landscape, innovation, differentiate analysis. So this is where it starts getting fun, right? iRobot, cleaning automation giant. Like, I think that with that 606 patents, obviously one of the earliest, most recognized, biggest brands that you'll see in robotic adoption today. Pretty impressive company, massive patent wall. I mean, honestly, if they really wanted to keep some of these companies out of it and make it a pursuit of sort of, infringement and pursuing these, they probably have a lot of strong cases out there in the market today. I would be a little bit scared of entering into robots for cleaning in a commercial or other application today. Bear Robotics, the restaurant service specialist. So again, they're going into Bear Robotics here that has obviously a focus on this restaurant services, some delivery. It's actually got some patented things. It's pulling out some of its core differentiation around its multi-sensor fusion. So it's using 3D cameras with LiDAR, and it's actually patenting that activity. That gets down to more of the core of the technology, I think. So as you move away from just applying to other people's technology to actually being the innovator and how you're leveraging it at a deeper level, I think this gets into that sort of core technology application, which is pretty cool that Bear has done some of that. And obviously 27 patents is pretty substantial for a smaller startup, but they've been acquired by LG. So they're well postured. They've got that strength of patent portfolio. They're out there with the backing of an LG, which has got a huge, broader portfolio around. I'm sure there's some synergies there in terms of the technology they can bring to bear. Miso Robotics, again, one of the things that Richtech, if you watch some of their demos and such, they have like these serving and mixing bots to prepare mixed beverages and stuff. So they're kind of playing in this kitchen automation space for food preparation or drink preparation. And so this Miso Robotics obviously is in that space, has a little bit of an IP portfolio. Some core differentiation here, so transportable kitchen work cells. So modular self-contained robotic kitchens that can prepare diverse menus without retooling. Multimodal food recognition, combines IR cameras with DEM sensors and CNNs to identify food despite cooking. Gases, changing appearances, and variable lighting. So some analysis of what the thing that the food is that's in context of its view. Precision ingredient dispensing, so they've got some stuff around that ingredient dispensing. I've got to imagine, like, if you go to a common coffee shop or a hotel lobby, you have those dispensing machines, the vending machines that'll just, here's free coffee, have an espresso or a flavored beverage. So that precision seems to be something that's pretty well dialed. I don't imagine that's a big differentiator, and there's probably a lot of prior holders around that innovation. Technology focus, so that's interesting. So they're doing 7 patents around robotic deep frying. That's kind of cool. I wouldn't have thought of that. Kitchen-specific robotic arms designed for food handling, neural networks trained on food preparation tasks. So they're over the sweet spot on the food preparation for sure. Starship, this is last mile delivery. I think this is more like Amazon, like, hey, here are your packages out in space. So that's probably less pertinent. I'm sure there is overlap in some of the mechanics of indoor versus outdoor robots, but not what I would consider a direct competitor here. Richtech Robotics, the humanoid platform company. So this probably aligns to like the Tesla bot or the Form bot, where they're doing like a broader based humanoid that can solve all sorts of different issues. Obviously a much bigger technical task to take that on. I think that the short-term strategy, getting into sort of a blue ocean space that's underserved from a robotics and automation space, is a good play, right? Like, I think that's where they're gaining traction with Richtech. But, obviously there's on its way is some of these robotics platforms, the humanoid approach, which is going to solve a much broader base of problems. It's still going to be training and rollout and stuff to get there. So these other companies could probably do optimized things, right? So if it's twice the price to do a full, to adopt a Richtech robot, and again, I don't know what the pricing is, but assuming that a full humanoid would be twice the price of something that's a specialized device that's just mixing drinks that's fixed platform, I could see there being competitive advantages. So I don't think that blue ocean for specialized products goes away. I'm surprised that we haven't seen more from a consumer model perspective to date. But that's definitely the approach that I see Richtech taking here today. So Samsung and LG Electronics, consumer electronic giant. So again, I don't know why I batched these together, but LG obviously is the acquirer of Bear, which it articulated earlier. It's got huge patent portfolios, so number one globally in service robots for Samsung, 193 in cleaning robots. So they're up there with the iRobot, LG 62 in service robots. So well protected space. They've been doing this a while. You don't arrive at that many patents without having been at it for a bit. Ecosystem integration. So they have the smart home for that home front, less commercially focused obviously, but some of that can be interesting. Dexel Robots, food assembly specialist. That's a weird one. Food assembly. So it's doing food preparation, prep cook. Not quite sure there. Highly specialized in automated food assembly, ultra focused portfolio on food prep automation. So, I mean, they're in that food prep space. I mean, they've got some focus on that. So it could be a peer worth looking into. Here's Richtech is obviously one of the peers in this peer set that we're covering here and focused on. It is interesting, the minimal patent protection, only 3 active U.S. patents. I would like to go back and look at what their sort of R&D spend is. I know that they've had a lot of growth sort of over the last year or so, especially in their valuation. But like how much as a percentage of revenue are they actually spending on their research? When I see 3 patents, that feels off to me, right? Like if you're actually doing anything, any level of concentration, and 2 of these are design patents, and you can see their design, is appropriate to the what they're doing. You can see their service robot videos. I mean, it's a cool bot, and it's sort of interactive, which is cool, but there's only one sort of functional utility patent here. And if you're spending millions of dollars, right? Like if you're spending $3 million and you don't have a patent to show for it, right? Or you're spending multiples of $3 million and you still don't have patents to show there's something wrong. Like there's just some minimum level threshold. You should have a certain number of things that you're discovering that are worth patenting and protecting if you're spending that kind of money on research. So I don't know what's going wrong there. So competitive vulnerability is identified for Richtech, so lacks defensive patent protection in any of its target markets. Competitors have built strong patent moats in their respective verticals, while Richtech's diversified approach has not generated corresponding IP. Key differentiation patterns, so specialized versus generalist, innovation focus areas, human interaction with Bear, food recognition, market positioning, so front of house with Bear, back of house with Miso and Dexi actually preparing the food. It's interesting that it puts Richtech in a sort of cross-functional multiple service areas without category dominance. They are playing in multiple spaces, which is, I kind of get the strategy where they're trying to go with, multiple blue oceans perhaps, where they're finding spaces that is just a nuanced, different way of solving that and solving that very specifically for a given vertical. Strategic implications for Richtech. Without a strong patent protection, Richtech's differentiation relies entirely on their business model innovation, execution speed, and market positioning, integration capabilities across product lines. So there is no moat here, is basically what this is saying. There's no protections. Anybody can come and replicate the model. Some of these companies may be ahead of them already. So like you think about like an NVIDIA and why they're so successful is like nobody can catch them. Like AMD on the training models, training chips, like is not catching them. And really anybody that wants to invest here around this and go into one of these verticals, there really is no moat protecting this. And so to that point of execution speed, it's like run faster is the model. You hear that kind of language, like, from a Tesla where they have massive scale in their R&D and they're like, we're just going to outrun everybody so you can have access to our patents. And that doesn't work for everybody. We can't all run that fast. We don't have that kind of money to throw at the problem. So it's an interesting challenge for Richtech to actually maintain, rather than somebody just stepping in and doing it faster, better, cheaper, right? Like there really is no moat here to speak of. And that's a challenge, right? Like if you're looking at valuations from an investment perspective and how you value something, if you're going to acquire a company, if you have 2 companies that you're looking at acquiring in this robotic space, and one has a rich patent portfolio with protected stuff and one doesn't, like you start leaning one way or another. Now, again, market traction changes all that. And so if Richtech can continue to focus on that traction, it actually feels, it reminds me a little bit of Palantir, right? So Palantir has been growing massively. They run so fast. They're predominantly doing implementations that leverage IP. I've done some analysis on their stuff before. When you look at like their work around large language models, like they aren't building their own models, they aren't training their own models, they aren't buying tons of NVIDIA GPU capacity. They aren't, relative to like some of the super or the hyperscalers like an Amazon or an Oracle, like they haven't invested in the patent portfolios protecting a lot of that work in terms of how they scale and deliver those services. So it is, it's less an infrastructure play perhaps. So they do have some infrastructure. I'm not arguing that, but their model has really been to really help companies adopt, bring that forward, and some rich talent and services resources to do that. And then they just run faster, right? They out there and they're solving real world business problems. So there is hope here for Richtech. Like I think they can continue to push down this path, moving forward with that. But there is some susceptibility here. And really what our goal was here was to understand what this company does, and in a competitive landscape, how it's differentiated. And it's not a strong differentiation perspective on this one. So I appreciate you joining today and going through this with me. Leave a comment if there's additional companies, if this was useful analysis to you and helps you with your evaluation of Richtech, regardless of use case, whether that's underwriting or investments of various sorts. But if you have other ideas, like questions you'd like to see, like to see this actually exhibited and tested out here, certainly post in the comments any sort of suggested questions you'd like to see for future entities, or specifically Richtech. I can respond to those in comments and let you know some of those answers if those are interesting. And then who you'd like to see next. We'll be running a series of these, so subscribe to see future versions of this. Thank you.